So it's important to know the rules for when we multiply and divide those positive and negative numbers, our integers. Now, as we go through this, remember this is only for multiplication and division, because it's very, very easy to start mixing the rules for multiplication and division with your rules for addition and subtraction when you're first learning about them. So it's very, very important that you know right now the only thing we're talking about is for multiplication. Whoops. And division. So hopefully you've taken good notes up to now about your addition and subtraction, and you'll take good notes here about multiplication and division. And the more you do it, the less you'll need to refer to those notes, but it should help. Let me go back here for a second. The first thing I want you to think about is think about the most positive, happy person you know. Now, some of you might disagree, but I think it's great to be happy. And this person, we just think of as always being happy. And then over here, we have this friend. Think about the friend that you have, or the person that you know that's always negative. They're always complaining and sad and angry. And all of those words describe things that are not positive, but negative. So keeping those things in mind to have them separated. Okay, so think about those friends or people that you know. When you have two positive people together, they're hanging out and they're very happy. And of course, when you've got two friends together that are happy, this continues to be a positive situation. So right there is a rule that's always, for when we multiply and divide, a positive and another positive, our answer will always be positive. And again, this is for multiplying and dividing. Then we come over here, and there we are. We've got our positive friends, and look at them all together. Woo! They're so happy. So everybody's happy. That is certainly a positive situation. We've got a couple of our friends who are negative. They're always whining and complaining about whatever it is that they whine and complain about. So what happens? Think about it. Those two friends are together complaining, and what makes negative people happy but more complaining? So when I've got a negative person and a negative person together, well, all of a sudden they're kind of happy because they're together doing what they like to do most. So they're together, they're happy. So a negative and a negative are always going to give us that positive. Seems kind of weird and counterintuitive, but it's true. And here they are. Everybody's getting along because they all get to be all negative together, and it's a positive situation. Next. Now we've got our happy friend over here. And let's think about our happy friend over here with our angry friend. What happens to the angry person when they're subjected to the happy person all the time? They get more and more angry. And what happens to our positive friend when they're subjected to this negative energy that our angry and negative friend have? Well, suddenly their smile is going to go away, and they're going to have a frown instead because it's just so sad. They're not getting along, and it's negative. So that means to us that a positive and a negative, that's going to end up being a negative situation, and sadly will give us a negative answer. So let's review. When we've got two happy people together, positive and a positive, 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 it gives us a positive, right? got my negative together. Also gives me a positive because they're getting along, doing what they like to do best together. It makes them happy. Now I've got a positive and a negative. Well, neither one of them are very comfortable or very happy right now, and that's going to give me a negative situation. So extending that over here, remember when we were adding and subtracting, we would do the first two and then carry on to the next one. So these two together, both happy, give us a positive with another positive. That answer is going to be positive. Got my first two here, two angry, sad, negative friends, but they're getting along, they're happy. That gives us a positive. And then we bring in another negative friend. Well, now three's a crowd, and that's going to become unpleasant and negative. Now this here, got my positive and my negative friends. Together they're not getting along, it's unpleasant, that's a negative with another negative. Oh, wait a minute. Now my two negative friends have now overpowered my positive friends over here. So that negative and negative now becomes a positive. Look down here, I've got two happy people together. That's a positive. We throw in our negative friend, and what happens? It becomes a negative situation. So I realize that I'm going through these pretty quickly, but you should be able to see what's happening here. And perhaps you've already started to figure out a pattern. If not, we're going to further. Well, either way, we're going to take it a step further. We're going to look at what's going on here with our friends. So, well, this is pretty clear. We're happy. We're happy. We're happy. That's positive. Two negatives together give us a positive. Two more negatives give us another positive. Again, a positive situation. What's going to happen here? This gives me a negative situation with another negative situation. Those two get together, those two negatives, and they're positive. What happened here? I see that when I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives, that made a positive. I see I've got 2 negatives, also made a positive. Let's just keep that in mind as we move. Here we are again. Positive, 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 positive. Seems easy enough. 2 that aren't getting along, positive. 2 that are angry and get along. I said that wrong in the last one. Positive, another positive, equals a positive. Keep going. You should know where this is headed. Positive and a negative. That gives me a negative because it's unpleasant for everybody. Again, unpleasant together for everybody. Put those together. That, however, makes it a positive. With this positive, that's going to equal a positive. Again, let's look at this. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives, and this one I've got 1, 2 negatives. All give me positive results. Regardless of how you count this, even if you rearrange them, it's not going to make a difference. I'm going to carry on with what we're doing. Now what happens? Well, let's see. I've got my 2 positive friends. We know this is a positive and a positive. We put in our 1 negative. Well, that's going to mess things up for everybody. That is going to equal a negative. Got a positive, positive, throw in a negative, same thing as above, It's going to give me a negative. What is going on here? Well, let's see what happens here. This is a negative, also a negative. Now if I take this a step further, put those negatives together, that is going to give me a positive. I still have this other negative guy over here. That's going to give me another negative. Let's count these up. I've got one negative here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. One, two, three here. Now, hopefully you've started to notice the pattern. Even if you haven't, we've got a pretty simple rule here. When we multiply positives and negatives, all we have to do is count the number of negatives, because that's what's going to be the deciding factor. When we have an even number of negatives, the answer is positive, because each one of those negatives can match up with another negative, and that makes them happy. But when we have an odd number of negatives, it's going to be negative, because there's always going to be that one extra negative guy or gal making everybody miserable. So here's the basic of our rules for when you multiply and divide positive and negative integers. And one more time, please make sure you have all of this written down so that you don't confuse the rules for addition and subtraction with multiplication and division.